Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. You are here for 30 minutes to unpack this little thing we call AI. We're going to be learning some strategies on how to be safe online with our children, our students. Stick around. We'll do official introductions in a second. We've got a special guest here. Whether you're joining us live, or you're joining the recording, we're glad you found us. We really feel this is a super important topic to go through today. So thanks for joining. Before we begin, as we start all of our workshops here, we need to pause and give thanks and acknowledgement to the lands that we are so fortunate to be on. I'm joining you from Calgary. This is Treaty 7 territory, the beautiful homelands of the Blackfoot, the Piikani, Kainai, Tsuut'ina, Stoney Nakoda, the Métis, rich cultures and Indigenous nations around me. To find out more about the lands that you're on, I highly recommend check out whos.land. Incredible website, incredible information, resources about the lands we are on. So like I mentioned, my name is Michelle Armstrong. I'm here in Calgary, Director of Events for Logix Academy, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a second. And with us, one of our incredible facilitators, Bill Corcoran, is here. Bill, tell us a little about you.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm super excited to be joining you tonight. I'm Bill Corcoran from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I've spent 18 years in public education, most recently at the Ottawa Catholic School Board, and I love this topic, so I'm excited to join in with you today.
Yeah, as an educator, as a parent, as someone just interested in AI, kind of interested from all angles. I am with you. Okay, to tell you a little bit more about us here at Logix Academy, we are Canada's largest STEM robotics provider, and we are partners to all of these organizations you see here. We are very fortunate to be able to work alongside partners to share super cool things. Today's partnership is thanks to kind of a new partnership we have with Found 42 and Richard O'Shea. Richard, welcome. Tell us a little about you.
Hi, everyone, and good to see you, Bill. Good to see you, Michelle. My name is Richard O'Shea. I spent 15 years at Google and recently left to start my own business called Found 42. And in partnership with Google, we're bringing the content, some of the content that we're going to talk about tonight, all around responsible AI.
Excellent. And Richard, we may as well also mention that you're joining us from New York, I believe. Is that right?
That's right.
Sweet. So those of you joining us, whether you're here in Canada, down in the States, anywhere in the world, you're going to find this information applicable for sure. Richard, did you want to tell everyone just a little bit about this resource that we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, so thank you. What we're going to talk about today is something called Meet Leo. Meet Leo is a program at Google to help families learn and explore online together. So Meet Leo is all about understanding online safety and responsible AI. And the goals of Meet Leo are to help protect students online, help everyone understand how to be safe, also give parents and teachers guidelines on how to set ground rules, and then how to explore AI responsibly.
Yeah. And so these are all topics that I would assume are front of mind of all of those of you watching. I do see there's a few of you here live. We would love to hear from you. Can you let us know in the chat, those of you that are here, what's your experience with AI? How comfortable are you? Are you on the 1, maybe a 0, like, I don't even know, where to begin? Or are you becoming a little bit more savvy, pretty comfortable with it? So on a scale of 1 to 5, if those of you joining us live could let us know in the chat, what's your comfort level with AI? Maybe I'll turn it over to you, Richard. If you had to say on a scale of 1 to 5, knowing you kind of live and breathe this daily, could you call yourself a 5?
Yeah, I call myself a 5. But I would say 5 years ago, I'd call myself probably a 1. Or even 3 years ago, right, when this stuff was just coming out. So, but I spend my entire day in AI, and working in AI. But I suspect everyone's going to be it'll probably follow a distribution curve, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, we've got Amy's here with us, a 3 or a 4, kind of middle of the road. Definitely lots to learn. Bill, how would you describe yourself on a 1 to 5 scale?
I think I would follow Richard's kind of journey in the sense that I started off really low, like I knew nothing. And then I bumped up thinking I knew everything in one way, but I was humble enough to know that I didn't. And so I bumped back. I'd say I'm probably a 4. That's what I think I'd be, because I can't say that I'm an expert. My comfort level is maybe a 5, I guess, but sometimes people are synonymous with the word expert. But I want people to pick up that we said comfort level. So yes, I would say 5 on comfort, 4 on what I feel as an expert.
Yeah, always learning, trying to keep up. Well, with that, Bill, I know we're going to turn it over to you, and Richard and I are going to stay here to
Yeah.
kind of help guide things along. This is part 1 of a 4-part series, so we're going to have you here for about 30 minutes to really just set the stage. But then we've got part 2 tomorrow night, part 3 and 4 next week. So hopefully by the end of this, we'll all be a whole lot more comfortable with AI. But with that, Bill, what exactly are the objectives for today?
Well, I think sort of setting the stage, you mentioned like I come at this not just as somebody who kind of lives and breathes educational technology, as well as I'm a parent. And to know that I'm in there with educational technology and feel quite comfortable with AI, I can certainly tell you that I don't have all the answers, but I'm definitely studying them. And I have 3 boys that are in the prime of trying to experiment with all this. So I'm doing my best to bring it on all lenses, from education, from parent. So today's objectives really are to kind of give ourselves a sense of where we're going with it, but also to remember that we're human. And so even though we're coming at it from an AI standpoint, we want you to recognize that we don't, I guess, put away our thoughts that we need to be one with ourselves, one with nature, and there needs to be a balance of tech. So when we see balancing tech use, it's not always about using tech all the time. It's about using purposeful tech. It's about using it for specific instances, not just to say we use it. And so we always want that kind of setting off the standard for where we're at today, because we know we can get lost in the mud sometimes that we're just talking about tech, tech, tech. And that's not what we're saying. We're saying that we need to be aware of these instances and situations, and here's why we're doing this to help support you. So then again, be outside, be one with nature. And of course, this is one of my favorite images. It's again, it just kind of supports that argument. It's not tech all the time. I know we connected, Michelle, with this image about how sometimes when you go to the beach, sometimes you just want to sit there and sort of bask in the sun and not do anything. And that's okay. That's kind of like our no tech. But sometimes you might just want to go for a swim, a little wade in the water. Sometimes you don't want to go in the water. You want to go on the water and go canoeing. Or you might go for a little snorkel or scuba diving. Then you're really redefining it with a submarine. So it really tells you that we're not using these instances every day. Sometimes I want to go swimming. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I want to do an activity. Sometimes I don't. So I think coming back to it, it's always going to be centered around this intentional use piece. Did you want to add anything on there, Michelle, about this image? I know we both connect to it.
I just think that it's great that we set the stage with that for sure, because as much as we are all tech savvy and we know the tech is out there, we're being inundated by it. It's not all about the tech all the time. So I think that's really important to start with for sure. So appreciate that.
That's right. And Richard, did you want to add anything on this? Because I know we are about the tech. I'm trying to set a stage.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of you last night when I was on my phone far too late in the evening, which messed up my sleep, which we'll get to yesterday. So
Yes,
I should have been on the beach.
Yes, that's right. And I think we all get caught in it. It's just more that we're being mindful of it. And I think and knowing some strategies once we get into a cycle. So exactly today's plan, we're kind of going, what is this AI? But if we're going to step back a little bit and talk about more of those things that are impacting us as a society and what we know we need to continue to work on. Because with social media, when all these things came up, it kind of came fluent. Everybody was started jumping on it. And then we didn't really have anything to help support it. So we didn't get that right as a society. And now we're trying to figure out, well, how do we complement AI and integration? Because it's changing and evolving fast. And it came at us fast. So going into our impact on technology, that means a lot, but how is it affecting us? is essentially where we're going with this. And one thing is, what assumptions do we make about the digital skills of our children? Like, we know that at a young age, they might be able to pick up a device and they might be able to get onto an app. They might be able to play it, and they might be able to wow us with all those ingenuity and creativity skills on an app way younger than we ever did, because they just didn't exist. But now it's kind of those things, we put all these sort of safeguards and our attention on to kids when they're really, really young. And then once they get older, we start pulling away and giving them that autonomy, when technically they almost need more support as they get over until those teenager ages. So that's kind of those things that we're going to be looking at. Then our own screen time, you kind of mentioned it there, Richard. I have to put more tracking mechanisms on eyes, because I get into an infinite scroll, which I'll kind of is on one of our next slides. But ultimately, it's all about self-reflection. We're not coming through this session here to say, hey, check your phone and feel bad about it. No, we're just asking people to be self-reflective on their practices that they do. And I know that I'm a visual learner. So if it's like, oh, you were, on this, 10% more yesterday than average, I might think about, what was I doing and why did I do it for learning? And so do we set limits for our children? And what about for ourselves? Definitely, because we want to model that. And it's not because it's great to model, of course, but also because it's good for us and our brains and our bodies to have moderation. So again, we are compounded by fear of missing out. I know when I'm in a public area and I hear that sort of ding of a notification go on, and somebody hasn't changed their notification chime, that everybody's hand touches their phone in their pocket or reaches for it in their purse or whatever, because they don't want it to be their phone and they don't want to miss out on the greatest event in the world. And sometimes it's just an email, but it's not what you actually is there. It's what you think is there, or what you're missing out, because it could be an email for the best party that you would ever be invited to, and you miss the invite or something. It's whatever we perceive it to be. So it's that sense of artificial urgency that we are creating it, and I'm guilty. And then, of course, there's the infinite scroll. One more flip. The algorithms get you, and all of a sudden it's 20 minutes past. You said you're going to put it down, and we've all been there. So I think we can all connect and relate to this. And then, of course, one of my big passions in working in our school board, as well as just as part of my consulting gig right now, is that not only when we're looking at the phone at, let's say, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, we may be good at turning it off at 10 o'clock, which is really good for self-regulation, putting yourself on a schedule. However, your brain starts going to bed in that restful sort of sleep area an hour later, essentially. So that means we think we're going to bed at 10, but our brain's going to bed at 11 with the blue light that we're seeing on there. So right off the bat, your brain has an hour less sleep to work on for the next day. So you may feel more tired. So typically that's 60-minute rule. And then, of course, within all this, when we refer to procrastination, like I need to do a chore and I keep on pushing it off, that's the same thing with the infinite scroll that sometimes we just pushed off. And so I may be good, like, oh, it's only 11, but if I have my phone in my hand, my brain might not know it's 11, because it's actually starting to go to sleep an hour later. So all these things considered, we want to kind of continue to jump forth and recognize that when we're working with our children and our students from the education standpoint, that our brain is being rewired. It absolutely is, for good. And for not necessarily, I won't use the word bad, but for things that we have to learn more about, because that whole, thinking back into, this is how I did it when I grew up. Well, it's totally different now. So our brains are being rewired. So how we approach our children on these subjects is going to be crucial. So what can we do about it?
Well, and I love this.
Yes.
I love where you're going into with this. So just this notion, you've just called out kind of everything we already know. Like you've just called out that elephant in the room. The technology's here. It's faster, stronger, harder. Kids are using it. How do we help them? And then these Meet Leo resources, as you'll see through today's session a little bit, but then our subsequent sessions, this is where we're going to dive into these Meet Leo resources that are going to help us, with all of these things that Bill mentioned. And I'm going to go ahead and put those resources in the chat though, Bill, as well, so everybody could just get eyes on them. So Meet Leo resources are on the site I just posted, and these are the things we're going to unpack. to help just address some of these issues Bill just brought up. But keep going.
Yeah, we're just setting the stage because we have more sessions that are going to dig into like how do we actually put these in place. It's all fine and dandy to talk about it, but what we want is practical examples and takeaways that will be. So there'll be more setting the stage in this session, but definitely our session 2 is going to look at like what are these guardrails and what are these mechanisms that can do it, and what can we do to have conversations about it. And then we're going to actually show you even more tools that people can use so that these I guess these can assist people and become better as opposed to just using it in a not so good fashion. So we need to understand a little bit about what artificial intelligence is. And there's 2 words we'll come up with today is predictive and generative AI. And so predictive, as you can guess, it's probably something that you're using a little bit of algorithms, some historical data, your own kind of tendencies. You can see that down at the bottom, the image about FlixNet. Well, that FlixNet always seems to know what I want to watch next. Well, how does it do that? Well, it's getting to know you by what you're clicking on, what you're searching, those type of things. So that is part of an algorithm that it does use. Now, artificial intelligence has enhanced that in terms of what it uses, but that's not what we're focusing on today. We're focusing on a word called generative AI. And when we say AI, that's all encompassing, but generative AI, that root word is generate. So the key thing here is that when we're talking about generative AI, it's creating content, whether it's text or images or video or code or music that hasn't been created before. It is new. It is novel. And so we want people to understand that this is creating stuff that hasn't existed before. However, it has been provided data that it's using to create this new material. And that data could be giant data sets from Western civilization from up to, I know when one of the tools that really blew out onto the market in 2022, the data set was only up until then, and it was what was available on the internet. And so within that, it is innately could be biased. And so when we look at it, we have to be critical on what the information is giving us. So Michelle, do you want to add something onto that piece?
I do. This is just such an important concept that I'd like us to just go back and even think about our traditional definition of artificial intelligence. This was, our hey Google, hey Alexa, like you mentioned, the movie recommendations, predictive. But now to put ourselves in this place of new things are being generated, new stories, new pictures, new poems, new songs, new because of this data that it's being fed. It's quite a concept. I'd love to actually ask you, Richard, if you were to sort of give a general synopsis as well, just how do we help people understand kind of where we were and where we are now?
Yeah, I mean, when you zoom back, AI has been around for a very long time. I often ask students to guess when the term artificial intelligence was created, and a lot of them would say something like the last 3 to 5 years. It was actually 1956. So the industry has been doing all sorts of things around research and development and productizing AI. And for a long time, it's just been simple machine learning, as we'll describe, which is just like classifying whether an email is spam or whether a picture is a dog or a cat. And it's only very recently that with generative AI that people have become aware of the power of these tools, but also the risks. And it sort of creates challenges and opportunities for both parents, teachers, and students that we'll talk more about throughout the series.
Yeah, that's where we're at then. So Bill, this is where you were going into. All right, it's only as good as the data that's there. That data is definitely biased. So yeah, keep on going. And I know you're going to go to some strategies, how we combat that.
Absolutely. And the data is the data. The example we give here is like a textbook. We're still at, who published it, who was the author, and kind of thinking about those type of things. We just have more access and more quick access to anything that is internet based on the web, especially within these tools. So it's good to have that critical lens. So with that, we always want to kind of like think like a scientist, whether it's a book in print or an article, we always kind of want to look at it. But it's important to kind of say, hey, we're not going to take face value for it. We're going to say, hey, we might question it. We might ask it more. We might demand more evidence to see if this second article or if this second source kind of collaborates with it or says, you know what, a different story, because that can occur. It doesn't mean that innately it's not correct. And then we want to kind of look at and see whether we're going to inspect an image, look for irregularities, and we're ultimately at the end of this, we're triangulating sources. So you can hear that word triangulating sources a lot throughout this process. And we want you to bring and we want to treat sources as yellow flags, not everything, but it's a good lens to go in. I like looking at the right hand side at the image of these flags. And yes, you are at a beach. It looks sunny out. Very, very nice. I think it would be there. But I question myself, would I run through that area without any questioning it? Probably not. I'd probably do a lot of things. One, I would probably avoid it. I might ask questions about it because maybe it just there's instances of maybe there's turtles that were laid there. I don't know. I'm making a lot of assumptions. So I think the biggest thing is we want to verify things. We want to look for consensus. We want to look for different information that is supporting what's out there amongst this. So we're going to treat sources as yellow flags and then make sure we do find out the information that collaborates and corroborates with that.
And we've got to go back as educators. I think the thing we always strive for is critical thinking. Thinking, critical thought. And now so much more important. And I love that you've framed it now. Okay, what is critical thinking? We got to put our scientist hat on. And now let's go through like all of those steps to really make sure we're thinking it through. So I love that analogy, using it, thinking as a scientist for sure.
It's so important too, because I think to ourselves, what about our children who are growing up right now? We've have a foundation of a lot of knowledge that's come in from us, and we are able to kind of contradict and kind of have that self-reflection, that critical thinking. But if now in a world of technology, what does that look like in 8 to 10 years from now, where people are saying, how do I actually know what exists or not when I'm growing up in that generation? So it'd be something to continue to look at. I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything on there, Richard, to this topic.
Yeah. So, I think when I talk to students and parents and teachers about what's happening right now with AI, and I'm both inspired, but also very empathetic about what I'm hearing from people around their concerns. And I think this generation will be unique in many ways. And one of those ways is that they will need to have critical thinking superpowers that go beyond anything that was expected of humans until now. Being able to discern the difference between what is real, whether it's an image or video or audio, whatever it is, will be a key skill just to navigate the world. And so that, and the other part of this, of course, are the huge opportunities that these tools can create for learning, for actually connecting with others in interesting ways, and sometimes counterintuitive ways. And because sometimes we feel that technology has a tendency to put us in silos, but there are ways that it can help us better understand different cultures, and of course, even translate in real time when you're talking to someone who doesn't speak your language. So I think it's both an exciting time, but there's also a lot of different things we need to consider as we sort of navigate the very exciting near-term future and medium and long-term future for our students.
Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest thing is what change management used to happen over a little bit longer spans of time. And now it's just changing so rapidly that people are still getting their head around just the infinite potential of what it is, but we're also being very critical, and a lot of times that sort of fear piece wins out. But I think as that sort of balance in sessions like this, we'll be able to show what the possibilities are. So that's what the next session is, or the next section of this part is really about, because we look at what does that mean? And I'm going to take the lens off just being a parent or guardian here and kind of look at education as a whole and society as a whole, because there are definitely times when AI shouldn't be used. There should be times when it can be used. But as students who are learning how to use it, we need to set those kind of expectations, whether in our classroom or at home. Is it an all the time thing? Not usually, but there are instances when it can. So I'm going to jump in kind of this image. These are two separate images, but this activity could be, nope, we're not going to use AI at all. There might be a part of it with the yellow light that we might use for, brainstorming or part of my writing, and it's giving feedback, or we're going to use it and we're just going to be honest about that, where we used it and what we used it for. So that's the stoplight example, where in the example on the right was just green light, red light. I see that there's something in the middle here. I think setting those parameters and those situations, either as a teacher in class or as a parent at home, is very important to have those conversations around, because I'll give you some examples here on what it might look like from before and comparative, because to me, it's not an all one or another. So here's an example. So people have different preferences, and sometimes I work better with pencil and paper or sticky notes, and sometimes I like using my computer. There is obviously value to writing things down. It's good for the memory, but I know that we may have different speech to text functions that somebody's really strong with. So it's not looking at across one level and saying, okay, well, maybe I do my brainstorming with Post-its or sticky notes, and then I put it to work on a computer, and then maybe I have a conversation with the teacher who's giving me feedback. So that goes in different ways than just saying it's all tech or it's all no tech in this instance. So what are we truly assessing here? If somebody's giving you feedback, if you're a parent giving your child some feedback, is that what's being assessed at school? Feedback meaning I'm helping them at home. Is that what it's, or are you just looking at some sort of learning capability along the way? So here's an example from what it looks like in a classroom or even at home. So I'm a student. I come home, I'm opening the textbook, I'm looking at my notes, and there's a test tomorrow. But what if my friend comes over or my sibling, it comes into the room and I'm talking with them? Is that okay? Like, is that cheating because they're talking with me? Well, sometimes when we go to the next example where the student is now putting some of their notes that their teacher gave them, their slide decks, and they put it into a chat GPT or LLM, a large language model, which is, Gemini, different things that we're using, and asking it questions and saying, well, what do I not know? Ask me, test me about it, because maybe their parent is at work or their siblings are, at sports, and they just don't have somebody else there that can be doing it. Is that cheating when they've done the work and they've taken the notes? So all these things are food for thoughts pieces, that scenario one versus scenario two. So scenario one, there's another human there. But what if there's not another human in this example? Can I use all my hard work or other notes that's provided and me ask it questions, or have the AI ask me questions to help me study? So I use that word as a thought partner. So lots of food for thought in this case. And then I kind of want to go back here, but before we go into that one right here, do we want anything to that kind of study and thought partner piece before we kind of throw it over to one of our last segments? Maybe Michelle, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I love that you framed this as it's food for thought. And I think different classroom scenarios, different teachers, different parents, like different activities, the answer is going to be different. And I like that you framed it at the beginning as it's not all or nothing. It depends. Yep. Richard, I'd love to know your thought on this.
Yeah, when I've done workshops with students and asked them about their biggest concerns with AI, and what's very encouraging is that they always say the same thing. They don't want it to be a crutch. They want it to be a tool that can help them learn, but they want to learn. And so they don't want this to become a replacement for their learning or to become a reason why their skills atrophy. And there's evidence that if we lean on the AI too hard, that skills can, in fact, atrophy, that we lose the ability to think on our own. So we need to walk we need to sort of thread the needle on this and use our judgment and navigate how to best use these tools appropriately.
You're right.
Yeah. And I think another thing to as students or our children are using AI, it's okay to say, I used AI for this. One thing actually, Bill, we didn't mention, the images in this slide deck, I believe, are all AI generated.
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
Yep.
Right. but just coming forthright and say, yeah, I used AI last night to help me study this. I think I got it. I'm ready for the test. That's okay. So yeah.
You got it.
Excellent.
So I know we're hitting the top here, and we just have one food for thought. Again, that's our word of the day. Food for thought is one video clip that we want to kind of say we're going to, put a bookend on this presentation as it launches forward. So if you can tee up that clip, and we'll play about the first 30 seconds here and see where we land it. We'll unpack it for a second.
All right, here we go.
Lately, I've been doing calculations, as well as looking back at old NASA footage and raw data from satellites hovering above Earth. And I just can't escape the conclusion that the Earth might actually be flat. That's not me. It was never me. Those aren't my words. That's what's called a deepfake. What is a deepfake?
Yeah, and I think that's it. So we wanted to make sure, obviously, we're not living with our heads in the cloud here. We want to name it. We want to know that everything is on the table here, and we are aware of it. But I'll throw it to you, Richard, maybe to add on to it. I know that this concept, you're working with students and parents. What resonates here with you?
Yeah, I mean, this to me is the biggest concern around being able to distinguish what's real and what's not. These deepfakes are, at this point, very convincing. You have to be very, very, very astute to be able to pick out the things that are wrong. And actually what we'll find is it raises the bar in terms of having some domain expertise. So you're going to need to know more about science to be able to discern whether something like this is true. You'll need to actually triangulate in different ways. We'll talk about that later. But of course, in this case, you could look it up and make sure that you knew whether Neil deGrasse Tyson ever actually said this. So as a good example.
You're right. And definitely now you're just taking our word for it by providing a video. But yeah, to be able to know what's out there, especially when people kind of just skim and scroll and look for the first headline versus digging in. So all those things are going to be great segues to the session that will be named as session 2, where you're going to really dig in on what we can actually tangibly do for this. So basically, we are at the AI frontier. We're just at the beginning of it. We're continuing to go down the path of where we want to be able to navigate moving forward. There's the triangulation method on the right-hand side in the middle. We want to be able to spot those inconsistencies and definitely go in with that critical thinking lens as we move forward. So to kind of put sort of things that we can put a couple of these probably in the chat as well. There's just 2 resources we're going to highlight today. And one is, of course, the Meet Leo, the awesome Meet Leo resource, Parenting in the Digital Age. And then we'll look at the Google link to, which is learn more about generative AI. That's going to, again, link to our next session. When we come back, it'll be ready to go, which is, how do you have those conversations with your child? How do we set up these guardrails with your children and your family? How do we just talk about it? That's our hope for the end of a lot of this. So final words kind of going to Richard first, and then we'll throw it to Michelle for our closing.
Firstly, thanks again, Bill. Thanks to Michelle. This has been great. We're really looking forward to seeing everyone in the next few sessions.
Yeah, and I know this went fast, 30 minutes just to set this stage. If you're here live or here in the recording, you've still got the chat over to the side. Poke into those resources that we shared with you, because we're going to be unpacking those in the next 3 sessions. And so it'd be great if you had eyes on some of the things that we're going to be talking about. There's lots out there, and can't wait to share it with you. With that, Bill, final word goes to you.
Well, no, just thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Richard, for the opportunity, the collaboration, and thank you for all that are watching live and joining, or watching it on our recording. Lots to unpack here, and we appreciate it.
Yep, excited to dive in more tomorrow.
Yeah. See you soon.
everyone.
Okay, thanks,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.